Hello survivors, hi family and friends, this is Roy from Bootsie Sweettarts Guide to Life. Another disappointing experience with another 4th Art Saturday video hop, where very talented crafters and artists respond to a theme. Please check the description box below for the links to the videos of these crafters and artists. It's a lot of fun. Thanks and enjoy. Well, it's the 4th Saturday of the month, and it's time for our 4th Art Saturday video hop. And special thanks to Meridel Abrams for putting this together. We're a group of artists and crafters who are responding to a theme given each month. This month's theme is to use the art techniques of a specific artist in the material that we usually work in. Now I came across this wonderful artist, Saul LeWitt. He lived from 1928 to 2007, and he was a minimalist conceptual artist. And his artwork, a lot of it is structural and large. Seems to be able to be interpreted into a quilt block. So I looked around to some of his beautiful things, and this is a big installation, an outdoor installation. No, this is indoors. Another big installation. This is a whole wall. This is beautiful lines, very minimal amount of movement, but a lot of movement, but a minimal amount of components. This another wall. You can see it's the whole big wall. Here's something outside. Just beautiful shadows, taking advantage of the natural light. And I came across this, which is called Color Bands in 4 Directions, in 1999. And said, let me look at this. It's starting to really intrigue me. And then I found some of these things that he had done, and this just hit the target for me. So what I decided to do was take these, copy them, and cut them up. And I wound up taking only the angular pieces. I like the angular pieces better than just the horizontal or vertical stripes. So I cut just the angular ones with all I was interested in, and I played around with them until I came to this design. I don't know if it's going to focus, and I said this is perfect for a quilt block. The issue then became to make a plan and a pattern. What I did was I went on an old version of EQ Electric Quilt Pro software, and I made myself some paper piecing templates. I thought because of the exactness of this, I really wanted to do paper piecing. And I repeated the arrangement that I had with the index card, and I was really careful to mark where I want the blocks to meet when they're all done. Then came the matter of fabric, and I happen to have had his a long time ago. I bought a jelly roll, kind of a rainbowy colored jelly roll. This was $6 in Joann's, and I said this is perfect. And the Kismet gods were with me. These happen to be a little less than an inch wide. They're 7/8 of an inch wide, and the jelly roll is a little over 2.5 inches wide. So I can get 2 strips out of one of the jelly roll strips. So this was perfect for me. And let me show you how we proceeded. This is the first time I've used a jelly roll, so it's a new experience for me. First thing I want to do is sort the colors, and I've decided to keep just the primary colors, and the last minute I decided that maybe a few black squares, a few black sections would look interesting, and I wound up making that as a minor primary color as well. I didn't measure them, but they were long strips and unmanageable the way they were. So I needed to cut them down into smaller pieces before I even cut them into the 1 1/4 strips. It was just easier to handle, and I didn't need the long ones anyway. I needed small bits. One thing I found out while I was doing this, which later caused me a great deal of problems, is for some reason this jelly roll was cut on the bias, not at the straighter grain, and boy did it distort as I was using it. And here I'm just cutting it the best I can into 1 1/4 long 1 1/4 strips. Now I need to just cut these into small strips so they can fit onto the template, and it's very random. There is no measuring here at all. Just want to make sure that 2, 3 little segments fit on each stripe on the template. Now here I'm chain stitching the small segments together, and you'll see how some of them are not exactly the same width, and that's because of trying to cut too many at one time and on a bias. It really affected the accuracy. In the end, it didn't affect the final project, just made it a little bit more important for me to be careful when I was sewing the template. Now I have literally dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of these small strips. Now when 2 sections was sewn together, then I sew the 2 sections together to make 4, and so on. And there's really no color plan, no color scheme. I realized that at some point I was going to need more black, since that was going to be one of the focus colors. The other focus color is yellow, which is nice. You'll see in the end how the yellow is very dramatic. So this is a lot of stitching. This takes a lot of time, but for me, I happen to enjoy it. I mean, I think it's fun. Ironing is key to this, especially because they're bias strips. They can be controlled a little bit better. Some of them I starched just to ease the wonkiness, but I really wanted them flat. I tried to press as many as I could open. You need asbestos fingers for that. Now comes the fun part, making the template colorful. Simply line up the pieces, the strips, turn the paper over. I'll do a really more detailed video on how I do paper piecing. It's very similar, just little tricks that I do. You need to have the lines show on both sides, you know. You've got to be able to see the sections on both sides. I use a tracing wheel to score a line down each line, and then I fold each section 1 or 2 times. You see how easy it folds, so I can trim to 1/4 of an inch, And I know where now to line up my strips. See, right? They line right up. And no measuring, I don't have to worry that it's not going to fit if you do it this way. And now you'll see the finished product. And the section turned out almost better than I thought. The colors are very, very bright. I don't know if it's showing up on the video, but the contrast of colors is really working. The harder part now becomes attaching them all to make sure that they line up. Well, that's why I said it was the hardest. You'll see that the templates turn out not to be symmetrical. There are two that are identical and the other two are identical. So I had to be careful of what the final layout was so that the design was symmetrical. Now comes the sashing, the borders. Well, the border will wait on that. But when you look at Solowit's stripes in 4 directions, you see that he separated each block of stripes with black border. On the quilt here, we'll call them sashing in between. You can see where the symmetry of the blocks gave me a little bit of difficulty. Plus, I didn't trim one of the blocks to 1/4 of an inch. And you'll see in a minute that that caused a little bit of a problem. I tend not to be too careful about measuring these kinds of things because they're, fun projects that I don't want to stress over. And I've always had the fortune to have them turn out okay. So the sashings are going to be 3/4 of an inch. And then whatever border I decide to put around it will make it a little bit larger than that. Here you just line up the sashing strips with the edges of the block so that you can match up the next block. Now here at 3/4 of an inch, I draw a line and I draw a second line at 1 inch. That's the seam allowance. The 3/4 inch is the stitching line. You see here it doesn't match. And I look at the back and I see that, oh gee, I didn't trim. That's why it doesn't match perfectly. If you draw the 1 inch line and match up the block to the line, you can sew a 1/4 inch seam and you'll be perfectly on the intersection. You see what I'm saying here now? Now, because I'm 1/4 of an inch over, if I sew on that line, I am sewing on the 3/4 inch line. Makes it very, very easy. I do a lot of clipping, a lot of pinning. I'm a pinner and a clipper. I don't want to take too many chances. And here I'm sewing again on that line. I notice I keep the paper foundation on for the entire project. It stabilizes everything and just makes it easier. And look at how perfect that came out. Trim it down and then we'll add the next piece of sashing to get all 4 together. And the second pair are sewn together. We sew the 4 of them together. It's a little bit trickier, but take your time. I took my time on this to make sure it wasn't too wonky. We square it up at the end. Well, here we are now with the finished sashing, and then there'll be a border around it depending on what I'm making. It's probably going to be a nice tote panel. I'm going to quilt it with some flannel underneath. I'm just not sure how I want to quilt it just yet. Could go down each in the ditch, but we'll see. But the last step is to remove remove all the paper. Now, without trying to hold this up so you can see, it's just very bright. Anyway, there's light. The lights are very bright. Anyway, this is what we started out with. Then what I did was to take this wonderful tool that dates back to the early 1950s from Singer. It's a tracing wheel, and I just went over the lines once or twice, not pressing too hard, and then folded back before I even started my foundation piecing. And that enables, hopefully, the paper to come off easily. But I have my trusty tools. I have my hands. And I have my little hemostat. And I have a tapestry needle. This tapestry needle has a blunt point. Oh, this is coming up fast here, and all you do is tear away the paper gently, because you normally you do it gently anyway, but here we have all this bias to deal with, which is now fairly stable because of the stitching now. And you just go at this at a slow pace. It's like peeling paint. If you find, like I do, that peeling paint is therapeutic, is relaxing, and just keep doing that. The other tip is to use a very short stitch length, so you're not you're poking more holes in the paper, and it makes the perforation easier. So you keep doing that. So the paper is removed. This panel is done. I am loving this. Took a little bit of work. I learned a lot. I may actually, in future videos, put a little "what did I learn today?" more like "what did I unlearn today?" But this is going to make a beautiful panel on a tote bag, I think. Could put it on a pillow. I'm not sure yet. I have a few hanging in, not these exact ones, I have a few hanging, just not knowing where they're going to live after this. The other thing is, take a look at the scraps I have left. Didn't do too badly. Usually paper piecing can leave a lot of scraps, but like a good crafter, these scraps are going to go to good use. So come back in a couple of weeks, and maybe even less than that, and I have an idea for my scraps. So this is the end of the fourth art Saturday video hop. Thank you, Meridel Abrams, for putting this together. Thank you to all the other crafts people and artists who participated. For my project, I went from finding an artist that whose work I thought I might be able to reproduce in a way to honor that person, and I went from this inspiration to this model mock-up and the finished product. This has been a lot of fun. I can't wait for next month. Thank you for watching. Please check the description below. Follow the links, if you will, to the videos from this hop and see how other people interpreted the theme. So for now, hope to see you next time. Please stay well, stay safe, stay smart, and bye for now.